In this video, I want to talk about 5 books that changed my life, so I want to get right to it. Book number 5 is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. This book I read for the first time when I was 15 years old, and what I can say is, as an idealistic young artist and someone who's very stubborn and very, I don't want to say purist, but very idealistic in his artistic values and sort of sensibility as an artist and a young kind of idealistic person, it made a huge impact on me. And if you're someone that feels like you may be in a rut or you need something to light a fire under you for your creative projects or for your goals or any kind of achievement-oriented thing, I could not recommend this book any more highly. I know that it is a bit of a controversial pick because many people seem to think it is a book that's sort of championed by the far-right kind of segment of American politics. But I just think as a book, as characters, as a work of art, it's something that's very compelling and very inspiring. So I'd encourage you to check it out if you haven't read it. Number 4 is going to be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So this book I discovered when I was about 20 years old, living in Los Angeles for the first time, having had no idea of what things like anxiety or panic attacks were. I experienced something pretty severe in terms of a panic attack, and I had no idea what it was. I thought it was something physically very wrong with me in the moment. But after having gone to the ER, after having been checked out by a doctor and being told that it was an acute panic attack, it sort of led me on this path of investigating like what is happening, what is a panic attack, what is anxiety, what triggers it. And it's kind of a journey that started then and is continuing now. But I will say one of the things, if not the only thing, that's really brought about a certain sense of peace and inner stability and focus and presence is this book. So this book is amazing at just kind of shedding the preconception that who you think you are is anything other than a fiction that you create. And I think it's a scary thought, but it's a liberating thought. And it's something, again, that if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would highly recommend it. I know that there are probably people who think it may be too new age or spiritual or metaphysical or existential, something like this. But I really think, even if you are an atheist, even if you are of a different, spiritual persuasion, I really think there's something of merit in this book for everyone, particularly with with presence, with learning how to be someone that is not tethered to preconception, your own preconception or how you see yourself, how you want other people to see you. For that reason alone, I think it's very powerful. So I really recommend it. So book number 3 is going to be The Music Lesson by Victor Lamont Wooten. So for all the musicians out there, I'm sure you know Victor Wooten as one of the most prodigious bassists to ever live. Arguably the greatest bassist to ever live, right? I mean, technically, certainly, he's someone that's incredibly profound and who's charted new waters and done a lot as a musician. I would say the thing that makes this book so special, though, is in terms of instructional material, in terms of like perhaps a technical blueprint or something you may expect someone like Victor Wooten to impart in a book about music lessons, it is the opposite of what you would expect. It's all of these life lessons that are blended into this fiction and this narrative of these characters that are very surreal, but it's also very rooted in a practical, like real-life sensibility that I think is really unique. This is the only work of fiction that I've read 8 times, and it's something I keep revisiting because it's so inspiring and profound, and I think the imagination required to do something like this kind of really goes to show that Victor Wooten is more than just a technical musician. He's someone with imagination. He's someone with this spark of creativity that I think is very unique. So if you are a Victor Wooten fan, or if you're not a Victor Wooten fan, if you're just a fan of reading about life and reading about, the philosophy of someone who's kind of on this transcendent step of being a musician, I feel like he's a very enlightened kind of character in music, and if you're someone that's interested in reading about that or kind of seeing how someone like that could view things like music and life and what they would have to impart as lessons, I could not recommend the music lesson anymore. It's incredibly surreal, but it's authentic, and you recognize the truth in it immediately. So for that, I think it's pretty profound and inspiring. Book number 2 is going to be Awaken, the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. So of all the self-help-esque books that I could have mentioned, and there are many of them, there's something about this particular book that I think is really unique and really practical. And that's the reason I chose it. Because there are many, many books that deal with these subjects, and there are many authors that have insights into, the mindset of success and all these things. But I think Tony Robbins distills it in a very practical way in this particular book. And for that reason, I feel like it's very useful. Perhaps more useful than some of the more classic self-help books. It deals with things like getting leverage on yourself and how to rewire your brain into kind of accepting habits that may be difficult and kind of conditioning yourself to love difficult new habits as opposed to, finding excuses to kind of backslide into old habits. And for that, I feel like it's super useful and super inspiring. So again, similar to the Fountainhead, if you feel like you're maybe in a rut or you need something that's going to compel you to take on a new creative challenge or begin a new project or complete a project, I really think this is something that could help, something that could inspire you. So for that reason, I really recommend Awaken the Giant Within. Book number 1 is going to be Just Kids by Patti Smith. So this might be a little unconventional for a number 1 pick, but I really believe it's one of the most profound and tragic and heartfelt and beautiful, sad books I've ever read in my life. It is one of the most incredible artistic achievements that I've ever experienced. It kind of tracks the story of Patti Smith becoming an artist in the late 60s or early 60s to late 60s. It's incredibly beautiful, and it kind of instills this possibility of what is and what can be through determination, through vision, through will, through work ethic, through all these things, persistence. But also just it gives a really powerful telling of what it is to be an artist and what it takes, how difficult it is, the challenges that are kind of implicit in choosing that life. And it's just one of the most beautiful books I've ever read in my life. So if this is something that you think you relate to in terms of the artistic life or kind of experiencing the journey of someone who's accomplished so much, not only as a author, but as a musician, as a voice in pop culture, I really recommend it because I think it's pretty profound and just one of the most compelling reads I've ever experienced. So I'd really recommend Just Kids by Patti Smith. So those were the 5 books that changed my life, but I want to hear from you. What were the 5 books that changed your life? What was the book that maybe turned things around in terms of changing the way that you saw the world, changing the way you thought about a particular thing? If you like this video and you want more content like this, please feel free to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until next time.